Welcome to the weekly meeting of the greatest Rotary Club in the universe. Thank you very much. For today we are celebrating National Primary School Teachers Day. You know, all those people who told you someday you'll amount to something, while they clench their teeth. So, Bob Griffin, would you please come forward and lead us in the inspirational moment and pledge?
Our Rotary Feed the Needy Committee had an inspirational experience last week at Father Joe's Village. We participated in a kitting project. Yes, kitting. Kitting is a gathering of a set of essentials into a collection or a kit. We were invited to help members of the Salvador Foundation. The kits would be gifted to graduates of Father Joe's Village Recovery Program as they moved from living at Father Joe's into independent living in their own apartments. As you know, we've all at one time moved into an apartment, and usually we move in with just the clothing that we've got with us. So this kitting project is full of essentials for these people. We are surrounded by tables stacked with household essentials. Inspired with compassion, we felt that the gift that we were assembling would have a powerful impact on these residents as they transitioned to independent living. Our thanks to our Rotarian David Gardner for his leadership and his generosity. This was inspirational to all of us. I'd like to close with these words from Pope Francis. Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own food, their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we have a special guest back with us to do a special presentation. Except for he's busy talking right now. When he gets done, we'll carry on with our meeting here. Past President, sir. Past President Dan Orr, would you like to introduce our visiting Rotarian, please?
Yeah.
Well, thanks, everybody. In private banking from LA 5, our old friend Chris Siesko. Hi, Chris.
I don't think we have any others. I think that's it. So, but let's do guests. So starting on this side, if we could, please.
Thank you, President Pat, fellow Rotarians and guests. It's my pleasure to introduce guest Ryan Trabucco, who is the executive assistant. I've got an idea. I want to try and get one of these. They're awesome. For our other guest and speaker today, we'll have a bigger introduction later, but Mayor Paloma Aquirre-Imperial Beach. Welcome.
Thank you, President Pat, fellow Rotarians and guests. I would like to introduce Laura Wilkinson-Sinton. Laura has been very active in the Stop the Sewage project. As you know, she recently also ran for mayor. There is a meeting tonight. City Council. Mayor, City Council. Same thing. They all have one vote, right? They all get one vote.
That's $20.
Anyway, tonight there's a meeting at 6 o'clock at the Wynn Room. A Stop the Sewage meeting, which is being run by the high school students. So those of you who are available at 6, it'd be great for everybody to attend. Welcome.
Hi, fellow Rotarians, President Pat. This is back for another scene. Lunch is Solana Summer. She's 6 months, and that's it.
All right. We're lucky to have her.
President Pat, fellow Rotarians and guests, this is my incredible wife, the best wife in the universe.
That's $20. Fred?
Thank you, President Pat, fellow Rotarians. I can't keep her away. My lovely wife, Holly.
Dan?
President Pat, fellow Rotarians, it gives me again great pleasure to introduce J.D. Douglas, special guest. Thank you.
Any other visitors and any other visiting Rotarians? Well, thank you all. We're glad to have all of you with us. We are, as I mentioned, really glad to have Dan Orr back with us. And we also have a face here we haven't seen in a while, and I'm just delighted to see Carrie. Carrie, where are you? Way back in the back. Carrie's here with her husband, Dan. We're always glad to see Rotarians we haven't seen in a while, so thank you for being here with us today. Sad news before we get going, and that is you need to know that Tom Miller is in the hospital. He was doing poorly. He's in the process of multiple heart-type surgeries. He got the first one done, and they did some prep work for the second one, and things didn't go well for him. He is still in ICU, but is now doing better. So that you know, we had word from Luann this morning. I talked to her yesterday. She seemed like she was pretty stable after 2 days ago, the events of 2 days ago. Please keep him in your thoughts and prayers as he continues to recover and hopefully get back to the spot where he can finish this heart surgery that he's having. That's Tom and our very own Luann Miller, who are very, very important to our club. We have some Red Badgers here, I saw Brent Davis. I know Brent's here. If you're a Red Badger, stand up if you would, please. Okay. So, if you're a Red Badger, tell me the most exotic food you've ever eaten.
Oh gosh, little grasshoppers.
Spiced raw egg for breakfast in Thailand.
Same crickets in Thailand.
Julie?
Reindeer blood in Sweden. Thank you.
And back in the back, Brent? Chorizo burger with pineapple. Well, if any of you enjoy that kind of cuisine, you have a conversation point with some of our Red Badgers. Let's see, going on to around town, we were busy. We had a great bowling contest. Raised about $500 for Alzheimer's. Kudos to Chris Cover for doing that. You know, he's not with us today, but usually you have those blue buckets on the table and you know that's going to cost you when you see them. But so far you have raised over $6,000 and almost $7,000 for Alzheimer's research by those $1 bills you've stuck in there. So kudos to you guys and to Chris for orchestrating it. We had a bunch of folks that went to Fisher House. Thank you for that. Thank you for that good work. And look at those smiling faces. We had a small gathering of the Sea Cat bunch. And we had a gaggle of Rotarians there to learn how to keep each other alive. We had another gaggle that went to Father Joe's and did work. Lots of opportunities for you to do things in this club. And then, last but not least, we have this picture from the Rotary Social. This was Carol Summers' view of the crowd in her house. Carol is always very gracious with her home, and we appreciate it when she opens her doors. We had a great time, and it was a great gathering. Updates, a couple more from me. May Mixer with the Chamber on the 15th of May. You can sign up on that. Let's go. It's a great opportunity for us to reach out to people who work in Coronado who ought to be a member of this club. And we ought to have those people here. It's a great networking opportunity for them. And of course, we can use newer, younger members always. There's an alternate meeting tomorrow night. You can sign up online. It's at the hospital as always. And we need some volunteers. Natalie's and Paul Plummer orchestrating this. We need some more volunteers for our lawn bowling team. We are playing the Optimist, or one of those other junior social clubs here on the island, on the 21st of June, and there's a $250 donation to charity that's at stake. They get to pick the charity that we donate to if they win, and vice versa. Well, we don't want that to happen, so we need some people to play. I don't know a thing about lawn bowling, but I'm glad to play, so even though you don't know anything about it, sign up. We'd love to have you join us on that. Rotarians at work. Ronnie.
President Pat, fellow Rotarians, I just have a really quick history that I'd like to give everybody about this awesome event. Rotarians at Work Day began in 2006, launched by the Rotary districts of 5340 in San Diego, California, and also 4100 in Baja California, Mexico. The idea was simple but powerful: to do service above self and dedicate one day a year for Rotarians to roll up their sleeves and work side by side on community service projects. Since then, it has grown into a global movement practiced by clubs around the world, from the US and Canada to Africa, Asia, and beyond. Projects have included building playgrounds, restoring schools, planting trees, and supporting local shelters. The impact has been immense. Millions of volunteer hours poured into meaningful, hands-on service. Looking ahead, Rotarians at Work Day can play a crucial role in disaster recovery, climate resilience, and youth empowerment. We want to keep this going. It's a powerful reminder: when we work together, we transform communities, one project, one day, one heart at a time. Now, the reason why I've given you this quick history is because I'm doing the final push for people to sign up. You all have signed up papers on your on your tables there. And we would like you to sign up if you haven't already. We're doing, the school just has a couple of hours on Saturday morning if you want to join Josie at the schools, the elementary schools, and just give a couple of hours to pick up trash and have fun with all of our fellow Rotarians. She's also serving coffee and donuts.
Yes.
You can sign up online as well. Debbie has sent out an email. She sent that out yesterday, so you can just go click on the little link and sign up. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ronnie. Virginia, would you like to speak about the flag project over Memorial Day, please?
The flags. Woo! All right. President Pat, fellow Rotarians, guests, and visitors, I'd like to ask you to participate in Operation Flags for Vets. Last year, the district started putting the flags on each tombstone at Miramar National Cemetery. And we put them out on the Saturday before Memorial Day. So this year that's the 24th. And we pick them up on the Tuesday after Memorial Day. And this year it's the 27th. On your tables, you should see a flyer. Hopefully all of you, if someone could pick it up and pass it around the table so people can see. There's a QR code for how to sign up with the district. And last year we had about 25 participants. We had Daniel Stewart as a leader, and Chris also. And Bob Rutherford is leading this year. So if you would just take a moment and consider volunteering, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
President Pat, I just want to make a quick announcement. Today is Virginia Bear's 29th birthday.
That's $50. $1 for each year. $50. Georgia Farrell. Georgia, you had a comment you wanted to make about an upcoming dinner.
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Georgia. I work at Father Joe's Villages, and I grew up in Coronado. I've been a Rotarian for a while. First, I want to just thank the Griffins and Gardner. I don't think he's here. Oh, hi. For the amazing work serving breakfast and doing the baskets. That was so much fun, and some of my staff got to join in on the basket making, so that was great. Father Joe's Villages, last year, if you don't know, Ron Vernetti used to be on the board of directors at Father Joe's, and Virginia Bear is currently on the board of directors at Father Joe's, so there's lots of Father Joe's connections here. Last year, Ron Bernetti purchased a table and then opened it up to Rotarians. So he is doing that again this year. So if you are interested in attending, then I'm the person to talk to because I'm coordinating. We also have Rotarians from Downtown Rotary coming and La Jolla Rotary coming. So my hope is that we're going to have 3 or 4 Rotarian tables. So if you're interested, if you want to join this table or you want to purchase another table or other tickets, I have actual invitations and all the information that you would need. May 10th.
Thank you, George. I appreciate that. So, as many of you know, this is in the Environment Month for Rotary all over the world, and we've been having presentations each week from our Environmental Committee. And so, Ginger, I understand you're going to do today's presentation on the Environment Committee.
All right, President Pat, fellow Rotarians and guests, yes, as you may know, you probably all celebrated Earth Day yesterday. This is post-Earth Day today, but we are talking about our Committee to Protect the Environment, which is a fairly new committee, but we are joining the Rotary International project called the Million Solar Panel Challenge, and we're asking you, and would you go to the next slide, Jill? We're asking you to take a survey. Last week, I think Amy mentioned that there were 41 that had taken it. This week, we have 71. And what we're asking is that even if you don't have solar panels, even if you are a renter and you have solar panels, would you please take the survey? And especially if the lucky few of you who have more than one home with solar panels, count each home separately, if you would please, so that we can be a big part of the Rotary International project. Next slide, please. So this is a QR code that you would use to access the panel. And I think probably we may have gotten something last week about this, but if you don't have the QR code or don't know how to access it, just let me know. Next slide, please. So on your table, now we have, and you have time to memorize all of these during the meeting, we have some suggestions for continuing your sustainable habits. For instance, this morning I was shopping at Vaughn's and I ran into, well, I didn't hurt her, but I saw Ryan, and she had her own grocery bags. And there's so many simple things that we can do. So what we're asking is on your table, look over the list and consider maybe some things that you haven't done. Just add 1 or 2 of those. It's really easy. Next slide, please. Our next meeting for the Committee to Protect the Environment is this coming Sunday, the 27th. It's at Amy's house at 149 E Avenue, and it's at 4 o'clock. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Environmental Committee's done great work this month. We appreciate you. So each week it seems we have a couple of presentations from new members doing a Who Am I, but we're going to shake it up a little bit this week. We will have a presentation from a new member in just a moment. But we have so many new members and so many newer faces in the club, as you know, over the year. I've tried to invite people who've been in the club for a while, who some of the newer members might not know, to tell us a little bit about themselves. And today, it is our long member who's done so much for this club, Jane Braun. Jane, would you please come up and give a who am?
So, who I am, who I was, who I will be. I'll start with some background on my family. I am my father's daughter, and the values he instilled in me, I still cherish to this day. God, country, and family. And how could I not, having been born into an Irish Catholic family of 10 children. My dad's first wife contracted polio in 1954 and died while on an iron lung in 1956, leaving my father a widower with 2 young children. A year later, a blind date with my mom led to their wedding, and I was born the following year, the first of 8 children in 10 years. When I turned 4, there were 5 children, 2 sets of Irish twins. We were raised in the suburbs of Chicago in Arlington Heights. I attended a Catholic women's college in St. Paul, Minnesota, majoring in business. I campaigned for Ronald Reagan, coming to an age of the time when the tax recovery of 1981 was passed, and the top marginal tax bracket was reduced from 70% to 50%. Trickle-down economics made sense to me, and I became a capitalist. I worked for a large financial services firm in the Twin Cities for over a decade until my 5th child was born. My then husband, a Navy Reserve physician, and our family would spend 2 weeks in the summer staying at the Old Navy Lodge while he worked at the Balboa Naval Hospital. During Desert Storm, he made the decision to go on active duty, and the Navy soon issued PCS orders to Okinawa, Japan. We arrived in Coronado in 1996. Sadly, we were divorced in 2001. But as a single mom of 5 kids, I cannot think of a better place to have raised my family. My kids are now ages 30 to 40. Many of you know my children or have heard Mary Grace or Megan speak at Rotary this year. Megan's recognition as a Coronado High School student athlete was my Rotary introduction. I was sponsored by Dave Landon in 2005 while working with Dave, Amy Stewart, and Jane Simrall on the I'm In campaign to raise funds for the operating expenses for the high school swimming pool that is now known as the Brian Bent Memorial Aquatics Complex. When I joined Rotary, I was intimidated by what I perceived to be the good old boys club. Yet, as I joined committees and had the opportunity to get to know Rotarians in small settings, my passion for the good that we do in the world grew. I was mentored by some great past presidents. Steve Haley and Walt Heineke come to mind. I served as treasurer for 3 years and led the International Avenue of Service at a time when we helped launch Quench and Connect with both a Rotary District grant and an international grant under then presidents John Obram and Mary Griffin. I co-chaired Low Tide Ride and Stride alongside Gary Kennedy for several years, championing impact giving under President Tim Cusick and helping within our club's budgeting process so that we were able to help build a cabin, or we actually built our own Rotary cabin at YMCA Camp Surf, and we supported the campaign to rebuild the emergency department at Sharp Coronado Hospital under President Tom Mitchell. What sparked my dedication to work tirelessly on the Low Tide fundraiser was understanding the vision of David Lowenberg. That is, Rotary's messaging often highlights specific causes, such as End Polio Now. In the early years of the financial success of Low Tide Ride and Stride, articulating that we supported wounded warrior causes as the primary beneficiary inspired the Coronado community, our major event sponsors, and the race participants. To the new Rotarians, I encourage you to find a cause that you are passionate about. Rotary allows us to use our God-given talents of time, talent, and treasure to make the world a better place.
So we do that because I want you to know, Jane, but I want you to also recognize that there is so much talent in this club, and it has poured out on all the things we have done and poured out onto the community. And Jane, thank you for your years of service to Rotary. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have a brand new member of our club, or a newer member of our club, that we'll call forward so we can all learn a little bit about Brent Davis. Brent, come on up. The floor is yours.
Hello, Rotarians. It's an honor to be part of the greatest Rotary club in the universe. So we have a connection. Not only the greatest Rotary club in the universe, but I'm also a 3-time Mr. Universe. So there is a connection there somewhere, I guess. But let me explain that, okay? The seniors division of Mr. Universe. It's a little bit different, okay? But behind everybody, there's always a great situation or person or individuals, and I have to say it's my family. My wife is probably my rock, and everything else, and my kids. I learn more from them than I do from anything else. There's things, as we all know, we learn from our families you can never read from a book or anything else. So what's the next picture we've got? So I've also something a lot of people don't know. I've written 2 children's books. And this was the last one that we did. This was a few years back. That sold about 100,000 copies, surprisingly. And I went around the country selling that, and it did pretty well. I was surprised. And the biggest thing I love about that is taking that book to schools and to libraries and reading with kids, because kids say the most honest things. They don't care what they say. What else you got, Joe?
Get that? Big time.
The rest of it, right? Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Yeah. So I also did this film, and I was very blessed to do it at the right time. We did it during the pandemic when everybody had free time. And the only problem was I couldn't get anybody to show up to help film the movie. So finally things opened up a little bit. And I have to say, having my business here on the island and talking to so many people, it really made an impact. And I could see, living in the South Bay for 60 years, I'm like, why are we still talking about this? So that film, I think, came out at the right time after the pandemic, because everybody was thinking about the pandemic. And they kind of forgot about the sewage and the situation in San Diego. And I got to tell you, one of the first two people that stepped up were John Duncan and Mayor Aquirre. They're in the movie as well. And things have really come farther ahead. Yesterday we had a great situation where it looks like we're finally going to get the situation taken care of. But it's all through the hard work of the people and, of course, our great mayors of the South Bay. So I got to thank you guys for that. And the movie won a couple of awards too.
Okay.
We got picked up. That's the senior division of Mr. Universe in the day. The body's changed, but the haircut's still the same. You can't see the posing trunks. I do have them on though. That's getting an award at the San Diego Film Festival, and KPBS actually honored the movie as well, which really surprised me because we didn't put the movie in. It just got accepted. I don't know how they even heard about it, but it did very well, and so KPBS even liked the movie. That's my wife, and that's my partner, Larry Del Rose, and one of the gentlemen that's in the movie as well. John Duncan has a big part in it, by the way, so does Paloma.
Still watch it, though. It's okay.
It's a great...
Yeah, right.
That's getting the star, of course, the famous star on the Coronado Orange Avenue, and that was a surprise because the movie ended up winning Best Documentary for its during that year, and we were very surprised with that and very, very honored to get that. The Coronado Film Festival to me is like home. The city of Coronado is my home, so that was an honor. That was more important than anything else. That's when I had my radio show, so I started in radio with a station called ESPN Radio, and we never did. I kind of never really followed directions. So what I did was we honored the everyday. We interviewed the everyday underdog. So that could be anything in life, anything in sports. So the radio show did pretty well. We had it for a long time, and then I eventually went to work for some other radio stations. My mother got ill, so I took 3 years off to take care of her, and it looks like I'm going back probably in a couple months. So I'm coming out of retirement. That's part of the children's book, part of the promotion stuff. It ended up doing pretty well too. But I like to eat, by the way. I have an appetite. I like to eat good food, and sometimes it don't matter what it is. I think I said I like the cheese. Something with pineapple and chorizo, yes. That's my joy. It's my dog Poe. One thing I got to say about my media company is we found a way to not be so left or right, but more center to where we find a way to work together with everybody. The media company is based on helping people, just like what Rotary does. And that was the draw to Rotary, because Rotary does so much for so many people all around the world. It's so stellar. Everywhere you go, everybody has so much passion for what we do and how many people we help. And it's so selfless. And if I could even do just a little bit of that with our media company, but even, of course, I'm going to try to do more with Rotary, then I'm on the right path. But one thing I'm proud of is the dog. Going back to the dog, my media company over X amount of years, we found over 200 homes for pets. We work with different organizations, and that's a big thing that I was really passionate about. That dog that I was holding is my wife says I love the dog more than her, but it's not true. The dog's amazing. We adopted that dog because he just fit to the family, and so pets are a big part of our lives too. Being in the media business, you get to meet some interesting people, and this is a gentleman that a few probably know. Had an opportunity to have a few cigars with him, but it's better to have drinks and cigars with John Duncan, I can tell you. A few fruit trinkets from the senior division of Mr. Universe, but it's even better to be part of the biggest and best Rotary Club in the universe. That's my wife, who's the producer of everything that I do. She's my boss. And Larry Del Rose is my partner, Mr. Entertainment. I tell you what, I couldn't do anything without that group of people. It takes a village and it takes a team. That's the Teachers Education Award that we put on every year. We honor people in education. Last year we honored the custodian of the year, which nobody ever honors, and the cafeteria workers, and some of the most amazing stories of these individuals that do what they do for their career and their passion. But none of them had ever won any awards. They weren't doing what they're doing like a lot of us in this room do. They're doing what they love to do, and they love helping people. So that's ended up being one of the biggest education awards in the United States now, and now we're honoring people throughout California. So I'm very proud about that. This will be the 7th year. John Duncan's attended a few times, and he's passed out a few awards. Sorry to keep name dropping. I think that's it, isn't it?
There's a couple more.
Oh, that's just some of the people that go. Anyway, it's quite an event. It's they call it the Academy Awards for people in education. That's the younger days when I had hair at ESPN. That's before I had all 3 daughters. And that's our office where we do our podcast. We also do the videos and podcasts for Father Joe's Village. I don't know if you knew that. We do a lot of their stuff for them, and it's an honor. I love this. Will be our 3rd year working with them. And I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed to be able to do what I'm taking a snooze there. I'm very blessed to do the things that I get to do, and I love working with people and helping people. And you know, it's interesting, when I turned 60, everything before that was about how much I made, you know, materialistic stuff. But when I get to be 60, a lot of people that I used to love are no longer here. A lot of friends, a lot of relatives, and I really, really realized, what do I want to do with the remainder of time on my earth, on this earth? And what it was service to others. And that's why I was very attracted again to Rotary, because we're very selfless at that. I appreciate all your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. So John, when you come up here, don't drop Brent's name. You know, before we get to our National Day presentation, I just you know, I have a special place in my heart for teachers. I spent a lot of years on a school board back in the Midwest, and you know, we all had primary school teachers growing up, and I'm always reminded of the story of a poor dirt farmer I knew in Missouri named Clyde, who had a son named Rufus, and Rufus was not doing well in school. And the teacher sent a note home and asked Rufus to bring his parents in, and Rufus didn't have a mama, so he brought his dad, Clyde, and they were sitting talking to the teacher, and Rufus wasn't doing well much of anything. And finally, at the end of her presentation, she was just exasperated by the lack of response, and she said, "Clyde, Rufus, he's not going to amount to much." And Rufus looked up at Clyde and said, "Gee, Dad, she's setting the bar pretty high." But we're here today to take just a moment and celebrate people who've done something special. I think Brent's right. Sometimes we overlook people who are important in our lives, who do tasks that we just take for granted. And some of us are a long way from school, and we've forgotten about some of those people. But my teachers were always my heroes. And I thought it would be a good opportunity today, since this week we are celebrating National Primary School Teacher Day, to celebrate those of you who actually served in that capacity. We have a bunch of names here, and we have some of them here. And I'm going to ask you to come up and stand in the front, and then I have a small gift for you, if you would. So, Jean Marie Bond, Heidi Berger, Sharon Rapper, Carol McClellan, Karen Layline, Kathy McDonald. If I missed anybody, if I've missed somebody, please come up. I don't want to miss anybody. This is an inexact science, finding out who did what when. These ladies are the ladies who were partially responsible for the fact that our society continues to function, because they helped raise young people become adults who help run our society. So it's a small token, but thank you for your efforts, ladies.
Now wait, get together and hold your apple in the center. Closer, 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 closer. Great, hold the apple out. All right, got it.
John Duncan, would you please come up and introduce our guest speaker today?
Thank you, President Pat. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians and guests. It's really an honor as Mayor of Coronado to be able to introduce another mayor when they come to the town. And in this case, it's not just another mayor, it's Mayor Paloma Aquirre of Imperial Beach, which is a city that's so intertwined with Coronado. We're just very, very happy to have her here. I don't do long bios of people when I introduce them. I'll just say a couple quick facts, then I usually tell a story about the person, because I think that's a little more insightful. But Mayor Aquirre has her undergraduate degree from University of San Diego, her master's from University of California at San Diego, was elected to City Council in 2018, and was elected to Mayor of Imperial Beach in 2022. So that's the end of that. Now it's story time. But seriously, I want to say a couple of things that people may not know. So back when we found out that the sewage plant on our side of the border was broken and not functioning, that was a huge shock to pretty much everybody. That had kind of been kept secret and kind of quiet, that it was being damaged so heavily and wasn't really operating at all. At that time, I really want to thank Mayor Aquirre, because she was relentless in getting that out to the press. And I was working on the issue and trying to make progress, but her work with getting that out into the news and just being relentless about it made a huge difference in getting us started. Secondly, I want to share that there was a time where I got a phone call from Mayor Aquirre, and she invited me to join her trip to Washington, D.C. And the message was, this issue is not a partisan issue. This is an issue for Imperial Beach. It's an issue for Coronado. Let's get together and do the best we can and get into every single Congress member's office that we can, and let's make a difference. And I think I'll never forget that, and thank you for that as well. The last thing I just want to share, which I think is an example of character, I think that it has been very brave and courageous for Mayor Aquirre to continually seek a declaration of emergency on this issue against the governor of the state of California. When you go up against the highest elected official in your state, trying to achieve what you think is right for your community and for the entire South Bay region, it shows something that, frankly, 99% of politicians would never do. So with those little insights from me, I know you want to hear from her and not me, so it's my pleasure to introduce the Mayor of Imperial Beach, Mayor Paloma Aquirre.
Thank you so much, Mayor Duncan, for your kind words. Good afternoon, everyone, esteemed President Pat and Rotarians and guests. And thank you. And I'm going to talk about you too during my presentation. I'm incredibly grateful to be with you all here. Paloma Aguirre, I actually go by Mayor if I prefer. A little bit about me, on top of my background. I've been working on the sewage issue since 2005. That's how I became involved in a local nonprofit called Wild Coast. I continue to be a surfer, but at the time I didn't know that I had been surfing in polluted water for many years at the risk of falling very ill. So my predecessor, some of you may know him, Serge Sedina, former mayor of Imperial Beach, is a co-founder of Wild Coast. And he was putting up signs on the sand that read, "Clean water now." And I said, "What is that?" And he said, "Don't you know you surf the most polluted beach in America?" And I said, "I had no idea." And that's how I got involved in this issue. I worked my way from a volunteer to a project coordinator to eventually coastal and marine director, and that's when I decided to go back to school to get my master's, and from there I actually became a Canals National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency fellow, and I went to go to DC to work for Senator Cory Booker, and that's when one of the largest sewage spills hit our region. I don't know if you recall, there was like a 300 million sewage spill, gallon sewage spill, and I just felt the call to come back to my community and make a bigger impact. That's why I ran for office. I could be here telling you about all the great things that are happening in IB. We've recently approved our 3rd hotel. We've approved 7 housing projects so far in the last 2 years. We've brought a new park to District 4, which never has had one before. We have a $24 million investment in the Palm Avenue Master Plan, which will co-benefit all of us here in Coronado as well, because it's one of the entry points to Coronado, the Strand, of course. but I know that everybody wants to hear about the sewage crisis. So that's what we're going to get into. How many of you know the basics of the issue? Okay, how many of you want to hear about like more of the background? Yeah, okay. All right, let's move ahead. So basics are the watershed itself is shared with Mexico, 3/4 of it in Mexico, 1/4 in the U.S. The river meanders in and out of the border, discharging south of Imperial Beach right here. Next slide. The challenge is the city of Tijuana sits on average 300 feet above sea level. It has insufficient wastewater infrastructure, insufficient stormwater infrastructure, and insufficient trash collection services. So because of the nature and the hydrology of the watershed, when it rains, all of that uncollected trash, stormwater, wastewater flows into the main body of water, which is the river itself, carries all of that across the border right here at Dairy Mart, flows through the federally protected Tijuana River National Estuary and Research Reserve, and then into the coast, which, by the way, at the coast, at the side of the river mouth, is a state marine conservation area, otherwise known as marine protected area. It's part of a 500,000 acre network statewide of marine protected areas, and it connects ecologically with over 1.2 million acres of the biosphere reserve of the Pacific Islands of Mexico. So it has incredible importance ecologically. And then the river has a few tributaries, which are shown here in the red arrow. So what is a tributary? Imagine the main stem of the river being a big artery, and these little ones are capillaries. So they're all interconnected. Next slide. This is a map of the infrastructure, existing infrastructure. So we have the Rodriguez Dam up here, the river itself. There's a pump station right before the river comes across the border that when it's working, it actually diverts the river down here, where everything that's carried by the river is discharged without any treatment whatsoever. And then adjacent to that discharge, we have the San Antonio de los Buenos treatment plant, aka Punta Bandera. You might have heard of it. 6 miles south of the border, will come online very soon, and I'll get into that. And then, of course, the International Wastewater Treatment Plant on the U.S. side, which is treating 100% sewage from Mexico. It's the first of its kind that was built and paid for nationally by both countries. Next slide. So, obviously, the impacts of all of this pollution have been incredibly severe. We've had over 1,200 consecutive days of beach closures. Now, not just impacting Imperial Beach, but all the way up to Silver Strand and Coronado, on and off. Coronado gets a little bit more lucky, I guess you could say, because by the time the flows make it up to Coronado, they're a little bit more diluted. And that depends on ocean current direction, right? If the currents are going north, of course, we get the impacts. If they're going south, we get less impacts. Next slide. So what are the public health implications of this crisis? As I mentioned, this is not a new crisis. It's been going on for decades, but it's really worsened in the last few years. And thankfully, the silver lining is that there's been a lot more data and a lot more research interest in this issue. Just last summer, we had 4 academic institutions doing data collection. We had UCSD, San Diego State University, UC Riverside, and UT Austin spend weeks in the area and Imperial Beach and the Tijuana River Valley collecting soil, water, and air samples. And parallel to that effort, the Air Pollution Control District, of which Mayor Duncan is a board member of, has placed several sensors, odor, gas sensors, in specific areas of the Tijuana River Valley. And what we've been finding are alarming levels of hydrogen sulfide. Has anybody smelled that rotten egg smell? Do you guys smell it all the way up here? Sometimes? And the case for sure, I know that is impacting you guys there. I've had anecdotal reports of folks who live in West Chula Vista, folks who live close to the 805, San Isidro, of course, even up to National City. I hear that some people report odors. So next slide, let's go. So once the scientists were there, they started to notice that there was a hotspot area in the river. So whenever that river is flowing, and you could see it from space, this is a screenshot from Google Maps. This white area here, for those of you in the back, it's like a white spot. That's foam that you can see from space. And for those of you who may not know, you should never have foam in a body of water, because that means that the turbulence is causing any chemicals that may be present, surfactants, solvents, other types of pollutants, to create that foam. And as you can see, this is a hotspot with this red dot here. This is a map of schools within 1.5 miles of that hotspot. And I'll tell you why that's relevant. Next slide. Oh, this is just a photo. I went with Mayor Ron Morrison from the city of National City, and that's almost 12 feet of foam just present there next to hiking trails. That was right next to a hiking trail where people are walking their dogs, bike riding. This is in the Tijuana River Valley. Next slide. So this is just to give you a simple explanation of this. This dotted line here are the safe standards that the California Air Resources Board has established, which are right here. And the blue line and the red lines are exceedances of that state standard. So what they found, and the state standard is 30 parts per billion. What they were finding were peaks of 4,000 plus parts per billion, especially overnight. So it was consistent with what we anecdotally were experiencing. For the last 2 years, I've been getting reports not just from Imperial Beach residents, but Nestor, San Isidro, lots of folks telling us it smells at night, I'm getting sick, I have this pervasive cough or pervasive migraine. Some even in our staff at City Hall were experiencing these symptoms. We were talking with the local health clinic, they were seeing consistency in those reports as well. Well, guess what? The data was showing the exact same thing. Next slide. And this is one of the most concerning things to me that I continue to advocate about. It's how long we're exposed to these peaks, right? So as you can see here, this in the vertical line there, that's the amount of hours per day that we may be exposed to these toxic gases. You can see there's certain days that we're exposed up to 18 hours per day. And the additional concern of this is that what we can smell is a hydrogen sulfide, but what about the gases that we can smell? Because a lot of gases don't have smell. And that's just the gases. We haven't even talked about the levels of viruses, bacteria, parasites, fungi, PFAS, and other carcinogenic and bioaccumulative types of pollutants that the scientists have started to identify. We haven't had a comprehensive study that could tell us, well, here's an epidemiological study and these are the impacts to human bodies. The long-term health studies is one of the areas of need that we still have. Next slide. So this is just a summary of what I just said. So we have, especially when we had high levels of flow in the river, when we had hot days, the hot air rises and the colder air is lower, and toxic gases tend to be have more weight, so they tend to be compressed overnight with the boundary layer changes, with the atmospheric changes. Next slide. And here I am with Mayor Duncan talking about this has to do with the progress that we've made, right? So we're talking about the impacts. The impacts are concerning. Last year we had, I believe, 3 trips to Washington, D.C. Mayor Duncan mentioned when I gave him the call and I said we have to go work on this because there had been already $300 million secured for the International Wastewater Treatment Plant to double its capacity, but then we found out that it was in a complete state of disrepair. So we had to, they told us we need at least $150 million to fix it. So that's when we put together a group, bipartisan group. We went to Congress. At the time, we had a Democratic-led Senate and a Republican-led House. And at that time, they were not coming to an agreement on almost anything. But we took it upon ourselves. We had over 20 legislative visits on both sides of the aisle. And it was really refreshing to hear from all of the folks almost that we spoke to. They understood how severe this was. Some of the former Navy SEAL Congress members played a big role in advocating and understanding the impacts because they themselves had been exposed to these pollutants. Congressman Dan Crenshaw from Texas, Congressman Zinke from Montana, and several others. There were up to 6, I believe, that were very, very responsive. So it was truly a bipartisan effort and collective effort. And thankfully, we got the last tranche of funding that we needed to fix the plant while we upgraded it. Now, on the Mexican side, what is Mexico doing about this? It's obvious that this is all coming from Mexico. It's obvious that Mexico has to have a stake in this issue. And, as someone who's been working on this with past administrations, I remember, to be completely frank, talking to past administration of governors of Baja California, where they wouldn't even acknowledge that this existed. I had one governor, I'm not going to name names, say, this doesn't make it past the border wall, right? And you're like, okay, well. Different take with this new administration, the administration of Marina del Pilar, the current governor of Baja, under President AMLO and now President Sheinbaum. Back in 2022, they made a binational agreement to invest $144 million to wastewater infrastructure on their side of just solely Mexican funding. So one of the top priority projects was repairing that sewage treatment plant that I was telling you about, San Antonio de los Buenos. So Mayor Duncan and several of us were invited to go check the progress of this. Unfortunately, there were some delays in supply chain issues with some of the pumps and parts. It was supposed to be online last fall. Now it's been delayed to this spring, but my understanding it's about to come online. It's actually functioning already, but it's still not meeting Clean Water Act standards of Mexican Clean Water Act, of course. Next slide. It's just, I don't want to be critical, but their standards are a little lower, right? Ours are 100 enterococci per 100 milliliters. Theirs are like 300, so they're a little bit. But anyway, neither here nor there. There's some progress being made. They're going to be treating 18 million gallons of sewage per day. When our treatment plant, hopefully there's no further delays, comes online, it'll treat up to 50 million gallons per day, but there's still about 20 million gallons of unaccounted, untreated flows flowing through the river. And my main concern is that it's not just residential wastewater and sewage, it's also industrial waste. Because upstream, close to one of the tributaries, it's called the Alamar River, which feeds into the Tijuana River, there are a number of assembly plants along the way, including American-owned plants. So they're producing electronic parts, they're producing car parts, there's biomedical gear, and there's a little bit less enforcement on the Mexican side. So we suspect that a lot of that pollution is coming from some of these assembly plants. That's an area that we want to continue to pressure Mexico to address. But in the meantime, while we work with Mexico, while we ask for more collaboration, while we put more pressure on Mexico to do even more, we have to address this here. So what has happened as far as the state of emergency, and this is, look, I'll just be very clear, like, it's one of the tools in the toolbox. And I'll get into yesterday's visit by Administrator Zeldin, but I think he said it so well. He threw out a little expletive. You might have seen it on TV, but it was well said in the sense that he said, we don't care, we don't give a how we get it done. We just need it fixed.
Yeah.
So, yes, and I agree with that. Whether it's a state of emergency, whether it's by executive order, whether it's by waving a wand, we don't care. Just fix it on our side, right? So, but there's been several different issues. There's been the City of Imperial Beach emergency declaration. The county has declared one. That was very important. All 180 legislators in the state of California, the California legislature, voted unanimously to call for a state of emergency. Most recently, San Diego City Council, Coastal Commission, and then there were the letters of Administrator Zeldin. Next slide. The big elephant in the room continues to be the state of California and the administration. I'm going to go into the administration because I feel hopeful. The state continues to say that this is a federal issue, and to Mayor's point, this is a state issue. This is a county issue. This is a local issue. It's a fish and wildlife issue. It's a public health department issue. Remember, we're talking about the ecological richness of what we have at the river mouth, which, by the way, at the Coastal Commission, we had a presentation from scientists telling us the estuary is hypoxic, meaning it doesn't have enough oxygen to sustain most life. So that's breaking down the entire food chain all the way up to bird species, which is extremely concerning. They were doing annual fish stock assessments to determine the health of the estuary. The last 2 years, those surveys have come back at 0. Extremely concerning. So we continue to pressure the Newsom administration, and we will continue to pressure the incoming administration after this, because this is absolutely a state issue. As someone who travels statewide on the Coastal Commission, there is no bigger coastal access issue, environmental justice issue than this. Next slide. This is just a little summary of our efforts, our congressional efforts and visits. We really tried with the Biden administration, and I'm not shy about being critical. We have been failed by the Newsom administration. We were failed by the Biden administration on this issue. We begged. It was almost Christmas when we went for the last ditch effort to ask him to please declare a state of emergency. What was there to lose? Didn't happen, unfortunately. Next slide. We've had some support from the state controller, who came and toured the area and pressured a declaration through the State Lands Commission. We also had a visit from Treasurer Fiona Ma, who I took her to the hotspot and also visited and sent letters of support for the congressional appropriations, the funding, and helped with that. Next slide. But I think what was really great was yesterday's visit. So the newly appointed administrator for the USCPA, Environmental Protection Agency, Lee Zeldin, here in this photo, came to tour the area, had a meeting with stakeholders, and he was able to breathe in what we're breathing in every day. And I think that was really important. He even said nobody should be living in these conditions. He saw the issues with the tributaries. He saw the really polluted riverbed of the Tijuana River. We were right there. We could barely breathe. And I had the opportunity to express to him how this is an issue that is not being addressed by any of the current projects. So at the end of the day, he gave a press conference and was saying that what he wanted to see within 48 hours was a list of priority projects and a commitment from Mexico to tackle those projects. And that's the type of energy and rhetoric and intention and action that we need from our administration. Because we can't conflate one issue with the other. This is an environmental and public health emergency, first and foremost, and it's impacting U.S. citizens and residents, the people of the United States. And our task as government is health, safety, and welfare of our people. So I'm feeling hopeful, I'm feeling optimistic, and I'm hoping to hear from his administration, right, where that list of priority projects lands and what is going to be Mexico's intention to tackle this together. Next slide. this is just a summary of what's already happening and what we're still going to continue to push forward. Next slide. Yeah, and that's it. So I'll open it up for questions. Okay, perfect. Okay, yes.
Okay. The biggest thing for me, I'm very new here, and so the testing of the waters. My husband and I have actually emailed them before, because right before holidays, 4th of July, they won't test 3-4 days before the holiday, and then on the holiday it shows green. And it happens, there's always gaps right before holidays or big events in Coronado where the water shows green. So how do you have your foot on their throat about testing, like to stop skipping days? My husband reached out and spoke to her and she said, oh, well, we were off, so I couldn't test the waters on this day, and then somebody had to take a vacation. Like, I think the fact that if the testing has to happen that way, so that the hotels and other people can't hide behind well, it's green, because nobody actually, a lot of people don't click on the data to show the last date of testing.
That's a good point. So the questions regarding testing, water quality testing at in coastal waters, and the gaps in number of days that they test for, and the concern that there may be a false sense of security, right, entering the ocean. And I relate very well with that, because before we had this new type of testing, which is DNA based, as a surfer, I remember finding out that I had been surfing in polluted water the day before, because they used to do culture-based testing, which takes 24 to 48 hours to produce results. The testing is entirely under county jurisdiction. It's the Department of Health and Quality that is in charge of the water and bay water monitoring program. So obvious need from the county to streamline that. The county needs to be doing a lot more when it comes to air quality control as well. We could be distributing a lot more air filters as well. I have been working on how many households are impacted, correlating it with the data, and at least 65,000 households in South Bay need air filters, and only 10,000 air filters have been distributed. And we know that that's just a Band-Aid, but you know, it's important. So yes, I do have my foot on the throat, if you will. I am the first one to advocate for not protecting public health. For example, just a quick example, there's a campground in Tijuana River Valley that's adjacent to some of these sewage spills that I'm concerned that they just reopened, and I'm concerned by the park rangers' well-being, and I actually vocalized that publicly. So we're going to continue to put pressure on the county. Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. Well done and terrific. This is the first time I've heard that there are U.S. businesses who have an interest in this. And it seems to me that is an avenue that could stand a lot of work. Every U.S. business who either owns a plant or who receives parts made in the plant that are crossing the border is a point of pressure that we need to respond. When the president of Ford Motor Company does not want to appear in any newspaper that his business is affecting people's health in the United States. And I think a lot more could be done on that issue.
And I agree. And the USMCA renegotiation is coming up next year, and I absolutely believe that's an incredibly important pressure point. When you're talking about trade and you're talking about co-benefits, that's where we need to bring in the heavy hand. Yes, you had your hand up early.
I don't understand why the state of California. That's the state of emergency. That's the first thing. I don't understand your efforts. Why
it's important?
It's got to be more important than it is. Why
are they not? That's a great question. I don't know. We have put pressure on every which way. All 18 mayors in this county have sent 2 letters at the time, the president and to our governor. It's a bipartisan group of mayors. We all agree. All 120 legislators in the state. I mean, what else can we say? And now we have proof from the Centers for Disease Control, who came down and did an assessment and indeed found that 70% of families in the surveyed areas are impacted. So it is a public health emergency, so I wish that our state government would also address it as such.
What's his reluctance?
Well, it was a mystery. I'll just be very frank. It was a mystery for almost a year after all these efforts, and we didn't get a response. Our second letter, mayor's letter, did get a response from the Office of California Emergency Services stating that it didn't qualify as a natural disaster or man-made disaster under FEMA and under the Stafford Act. But maybe a few months later, the governor was in town for a different issue at a press conference, and he was asked, and that's the first time he went on the record saying why. And I quote, he said, because it would have meant nothing. What did he say?
But I'm saying, you have it, the federal government.
Yes, and look, what I've been learning, because I'm a mayor of a small city, we thankfully don't have a lot of emergencies other than the sewage. That usually the way that this works is the governor of each state that's been affected puts a call to the federal government, because in the Stafford Act it reads, when an emergency has surpassed the ability of local government to address the issue, it is elevated to the federal government. So the fact that we haven't had one at the state, I think, has slowed down our efforts to request one at the Fed. But now with a new president that has a lot of impetus and has acknowledged the issue, along with Administrator Zeldin being here, I think there's a huge opportunity for us to all come together and keep pushing. Yes.
Mayor, what is the actual tangible result of having a declaration of emergency? Is it pure money? What is it?
A lot of people get stuck on the money and the FEMA aspect of this. For me, the most important thing is that it would waive any and all environmental laws and expedite diversion and treatment of the river. Because we have at least 10 different laws that have jurisdiction over the river floodplain, including cultural, security, and others. But if we were to waive all of those laws, we could build a project to divert the river, pre-treated, even if we treated it at a, not totally, but some level, and discharge it 3 miles offshore, we would immediately start seeing benefits and our water quality and air improve immediately. And we talked about that during Zeldin's visit. Yes.
Last question.
Mayor, I understand the administrator went by the SEAL base SEAL base yesterday. Any feedback from that? And has DOD gotten their arms around this also?
Yes, for a long time. They were a little bit, because of, I imagine, they didn't want their national security and training abilities to be compromised by sharing that they might be vulnerable. But it wasn't until the congressional delegation put pressure that the Navy actually came out with a report and is for the first time acknowledging that our Navy SEALs are being impacted by having to train in polluted waters and polluted air. So I think that's huge. We've known that the Border Patrol agents for a long time have been impacted in a different way. Sometimes even their boots become melted. I mean, some of the chemicals that they're walking in, and that's not even, that's documented. So I think it's really important to continue to highlight how this impacts our national security in different ways.
Very much. Appreciate you being here. I have no doubt that both of our mayors that are here will be glad to hang around and answer any questions that any of you might have going forward. Just a couple of things before we go. All of you need to know that the next NFL season starts tomorrow night. So watch out to see who drafts who. Bob Schultz, good to see you back. Didn't see you sneak in back here. We're glad to have you. And I think, in addition, every time the words John Duncan were said today is a $10 fine. So we'll close this meeting. Go forth and be kind.